It's a great question. The question is, why use swap, right? Why use the swap? Why use this entire business of organizing something into a function that swaps two values if all we could do would simply be doing this, int temp equals A, right? A equals B, and then B equals temp directly in main, right? Why not just do this instead of all this hardship with swap?
I was more thinking, why not just, if you wanted to switch A and B, why not just put A equals 2?
Well. Yes, but it's not. First of all, let me explain. I understand that your question is why not initialize it the right way in the first place? Well, because obviously this is very simple example, but in reality, what often happens is that you have a sequence of say numbers, right? And there could be like daily average temperatures or something, right? So somewhere in memory you can have today's average was 65, tomorrow is 70, the day after like 81, then go back to 67 and so forth. And then someplace here is like a 55-degree average temperature, right? So you have a block of numbers. So what if you wanted to sort these numbers? An implementation of any sort of function or algorithm or method, any of this, is to use some kind of logic which essentially swaps the values, right? So you notice that 67 is definitely out of order. It should be swapped, and your sort algorithm has to decide what it should be swapped with. Maybe it should be swapped with 70, right? So if you swap these two numbers, you get 65, 67, 81, and then 67. Then you want to continue your sort. You're probably doing a lot of loops, and you notice that 81 is out of order. Okay, so you may be able to, I'm sorry, this should be 70 because we already swapped it, right? So then we realize that 81 should be swapped with 70. But because these numbers came from a file, right? So all of these numbers, they came from a file, or they came from user input, or they came from the database, right? And we want to sort them, so we cannot predict their order right away. We should be able to implement sort, but all sort is doing is just swapping numbers. Swap, 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 until you're done. Then you realize there's nothing else to swap anymore. Everything is in perfect order. So we do need a functionality such as swap in order to be able to write meaningful algorithms. And swap is an extremely popular. Like there are multiple algorithms that use swap function, just like we did over here. And so that's the answer. We need a basic facility that does something like this. And there's no alternative but use indirect access to the variables. You cannot pass anything by copying the values, which is the default way of passing variables to functions. You have to provide addresses of the original objects, and your function has to work on the original objects. So this clearly demonstrates, since we already started another segment, so let's just one more minute. So this clearly demonstrates that you can pass parameters by value by copying their values to the stack and then getting access to the copies, which is the default way. And second way is to use indirect way of access, which is pass addresses. But addresses are accommodated by pointer variables, and then you just have to remember to dereference your pointers because they're just pointers to individual variables in memory. That's number one. Number two, overall, outside of the swap business domain, right? Outside of just swap challenge, essentially an ability to have access to addresses in memory and manipulate them directly like we did with everything that we did here, by having this type of function or functionality in our programming language, we can pretty much access anything anywhere. There is no limit, right? Any function can take a pointer, and as long as you provide the right address, it can have access to any part of the program, any part of data, and essentially by following some basic rules and remembering how you can possibly manipulate those addresses through, say, like remembering to dereference these operators, then you have absolutely no limit where you can go and access data. Any function can access data anywhere. So that's the ultimate, essentially, solution to indirection. And indirection is pretty much everything in programming. Indirection is very important. It's very important to have an ability to indirectly access something through something else, and that's what this covers today. All right, let's take a break.